Welcome back to Bass Fishing Declassified, and in today's video our team members are about to share with you guys how on those tough fishing days in the winter how the jig can come through for you. We're going to talk about different types of jigs, we're going to talk about where to throw the jigs and some retrieves, maybe even modifications. Okay guys, we appreciate you. Now let's get into it.
Hey guys, welcome back here to another edition of Bass Fishing Declassified, and really appreciate you guys joining us for today's episode. Got some good winter bass fishing tips for y'all today. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite lures to fish during the winter, and that's a finesse jig. And I'm going to show you guys how I set it up, my favorite size, trailers, that type of stuff. I think it's going to add up to some good fish for you guys. Okay guys, I'm going to show you right off the bat the jig and the trailer that I like to use, and I'm going to show you how I like to modify it specifically for winter fishing. And my favorite jig, guys, is this Jewel Spider Head. This is made by Jewel Bait Company. It's called a Spider Head or Spider Jig. 7/16 ounce is my favorite. I think that's a good size on it. And usually the skirt color, I like any type of a brown or green pumpkin. It's like, you can't go wrong. It's like if the water visibility is over 3 feet, I'll go with a green pumpkin skirt. And if it's under 3 feet, I'll go with a brown like this. So brown or green pumpkin is the main thing you need. The next thing I do is I pair it up with this Zoom little critter crawl, and I'm going to show you guys how I modify the jig and the trailer to get it working pretty good here. Now the first thing we do with it is I'm going to cut off a little bit of the segments of the little critter crawl, about 1/4 of an inch like that. And then I'm going to cut off the 2 side legs that we got here. This is just sort of a personal preference like that. And then I'm going to pinch off this little tentacle in between. So we got the crawl looking like that. Now, so here's a before and after of the two. Here's the stock and here's the modification. And the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna bring it on here. It's got a nice little keeper on here, so it keeps it on really good. Bring that up there like that. Put the keeper on it. And then I'm going to trim the skirt back on it a little bit because I don't want much of a skirt on there. I want mainly the trailer showing. This is really key in cold water to have a diminutive downsized. Straighten it up there, and there's my little edible tidbit there. Guys, this is a killer in the winter months like this. My favorite places to fish it, you can't go wrong around rock. If you guys, bluff banks is probably my favorite, but try to concentrate around any steep bank. Pitch it up next to the bluffs or the steep banks, pitch it up to the bank, work it down in 10 to 20 foot of water depending upon your water clarity. Usually use it like with 10-pound test Seagar and Vizex line on it. There's a good combo for it. And just work it, just shake it a little bit. You don't want to really hop it off the bottom, but just sort of shake it and pull it. And it's a really good way to get some bites in the winter time, guys, especially when it's tough. And it will work. This is one of those lure categories that will work if it's clear, sunny, cloudy, windy, no wind at all. It works on a diversity of conditions out there. So anyway, give it a try. I'll add up some good ones for you guys this winter. See y'all later.
Okay guys, there were many years for me where the jig was my #1 lure in the winter. Part of that was there's days, I like to fish when the conditions were tough. I like to fish during the coldest days. I liked to go out there and try to catch these fish because I like to catch big fish personally, and I knew that sometimes a big fish bit in these conditions, okay? And also, jigs catch big bass. They do. They're a big profile. They mimic crawfish. Crawfish is a high source of protein, okay? So big fish like jigs. It's just always been a deal in bass fishing, okay? And for me, I've caught a lot of big fish with it. I'm gonna share with you guys just to maybe help you out, okay? So the jigs I like to throw in the winter, let's talk about areas and I'll go into jigs. Let's say Highland lakes. Highland Reservoir type lakes, Lake Washita, for instance, DeGray, but even some lowland reservoirs as well. But I'll be fishing Washita, January, February, and DeGray a lot, mainly Washita. And I'd be fishing the cleaner water. Grass might be around, that might be one cover, but there'd be rock. Okay, I'd be trying to find rock. Now, let's say there are rock bluffs, rock points. I'd always try to find the creek channel and see where the creek channel's at. I'd try to find a higher spot where the rock could be that could drop off into deeper water. So it could be the creek channel or it could not be. But guys, one thing about rock is crawfish like to be up in the rocks, okay? Rocks sometimes can get warmer, all right? Now, I've had some really good days, and I'm gonna share a couple trips. I've had some really good days to where there was some, sun leading up to the day I was fishing. And there's one trip in particular I'm going to show you some footage from. Sun was leading up to the day we went fishing, and then a front came through. But since the sun was there, those rocks were warmer, crawfish were kind of more, I think, active, and then, of course, the bass were there to feed. And I love throwing a football jig in the winter, okay? Football jig is something you can throw year-round. This is the Fish the Moment offshore jig created by Johnny Schultz. It has that wire guard, reed guard, okay? Another one you see, this is that mop jig right here. This is more that mop jig style that our man Jordan Lee won a classic with. So I have a bunch of variety of football jigs. Here's another football jig right here. This is more of a custom brand jig. Now you see the skirts on some of these are longer. This one I threw all summer, so the skirt's shorter. Guys, and I tested it out. I have different skirt lengths and stuff, but that longer skirt in the winter can slow that fall down. And sometimes that fall is key, okay, with the winter. The water's colder, fish are more lethargic. That slower fall might create that reaction strike. You actually get a lot of strikes on the fall, okay? There'll be times like, those guys, if that water's clean, they're on the bottom, they see that thing coming, they can go get it and eat it on the fall, okay? The next type of jig is a structure jig. This is the hybrid jig by 6 Cents. I got the structure jig by Strike King. That's good around rock and wood as well. But guys, I like to find rock banks. Now, I wouldn't just say, let's say there's a long rock bank, okay? Hard to figure out where to catch fish, okay? Thought a car was pulling up and it's just wind. But try to find rock in areas where there's not rock. It could be a normal bank, a clay bank, and then if there's rock, that rock might be coming out, okay? And another example could be rock transition. Look for a rock change. If there's a bluff wall and then there's deep water there, then all of a sudden down that bank, there's a little bit of a change to pea gravel, okay? That could be shallower right there, okay? Could be other areas I would look. Guys, on my retrieve, I want to talk about the retrieve. Biggest thing with the jig, guys, and I'm talking about the boat being in 50 foot of water, 40 foot on some of these areas. Not telling you to fish that deep, but just what I was doing. Throw this jig out. You throw it out, right? And when it hits the water, don't click your reel. You pull line out, let this thing kind of sink, okay? Let it sink down there to the bottom. And then after I kind of let it sit there, I'm going to start reeling it slow, okay? I might drag it, okay? I might drag it a little bit, stop, and then catch back up. Or there's times I keep my rod point out and just reel it slow. I'm trying to feel the bottom, trying to feel the rocks. If there's grass like Lake Ouachetaw's present, you're feeling the grass and kind of pulling it through that grass, okay? Typically when that water gets under the 50s, man, you're going to have to reel it a little bit slower, okay? You can change your retrieve ups as well, okay? But I would always try to have a slow retrieve, stop, kind of slow, stop, drag, and just kind of see what the fish are telling you that day. Because if you do get a bite, you need to continue to try that as well. Okay, guys, so hopefully this helps you out, all right? Like I said, I've had some great days with the football jig, okay, or with the jig in the winter when the fishing is tough, okay? Like I said, I didn't even talk about that, but the fishing's tough. Once again, guys, I know, like I said, when that water kind of gets down here in Arkansas under the 50s, man, the bite is tough. It's slower, but guys, I'm going for 5 to 6 bites a day, trying to catch big ones, okay? Guys, we appreciate you. Thank you for watching, and hey, let's see what the next angler has to say. Guys, if you are enjoying today's video, make sure to hit the subscribe button for us, please, so you do not miss out on any additional content. Also, do not forget about our one-on-one virtual lessons that we're offering at fishthemoment.com. With these virtual lessons, you'll have an opportunity to meet with one of our team members one-on-one through a Zoom, Google Meet call, and you will have the chance to ask questions, learn different techniques, and see how one of our team members will attack the body of water that you asked. Just think of that as an opportunity for you as an angler to grow and learn. I know with me as a coach, when I coached for 12 years, man, there were many times that I would go and meet and visit with other coaches, go to conventions, and this for you is an opportunity to grow and learn as an angler. I know you can watch all the videos that we offer, and which is great, and we really appreciate it, but just by sitting down and having list questions there and just getting the feedback from the anglers, you will get something out of it that will make you a better angler.
When you're talking about fishing during the coldest time of the year, a lot of times you've got some of the toughest fishing of the year. And if you don't hit the timing windows just right, you might be fishing for only a handful of bites a day. Now, I've got a good number of baits that I have complete confidence in fishing during the cold water periods when the fishing is tough. And one of them is absolutely this guy right here. This is a Picasso little spotty tungsten jig. This is just a little finesse jig, and then I pair it up with a 3-inch Berkeley Pit Boss on the back. This combination is deadly during the cold water period for all species of bass. Now, a couple of things I like to point out about this jig. First, it's a tungsten head. In my opinion, you're probably going to be fishing around rock during this time of year because rock is one of the best objects at retaining heat, and therefore you have a lot of bass that are going to be hanging out around the rock. And when you're fishing rock, the tungsten head really comes into play because it creates a different sound. It's a higher pitch clacking sound, and I really believe that that generates a lot of interest from fish. It draws them from further away, and therefore you get more bites just because of the tungsten head. But the design here is great. You've got a really good little weed guard. It's a titanium. Let's see if I can separate it here. It's a little titanium weed guard with little drops of epoxy on the tip, and what that does is it creates a nice like shield over the hook, but it is very, very good at allowing the hook penetration into the fish. You've got a nice fine silicone skirt on it, and it's just a good compact design. Now, when I'm fishing this, I like to fish it on anywhere from 10 to 15 pound 100% Berkeley fluorocarbon. I'm really looking at matching the water clarity. So if my water is very clear, I'm throwing it on 10-pound test. If it's dirtier, I'll throw it on 15. And then I'm going to fish it on just a good all-around medium heavy rod. In this case here, this is the MHX NMB 874. So it's a 7.3 medium heavy all-purpose rod. And then I've got to pair it up with an Abu Garcia Xenon X. So a really good quality bait caster that will allow me to make the cast that I need to make with this jig. In some instances, I might just be fishing it down a 45-degree channel swing bank. In other instances, I may have some lay-down trees or some stumps that I'm fishing by, so I want a weedless presentation, and I want to be able to use a medium-heavy rod at least to be able to pull those fish away from some of that cover. But this is an absolute killer anytime you're talking about fishing during the cold water period. It's one of my go-tos and one of my absolute favorite jigs.